It is a great day to be a duck or to live in the Pacific Northwest. So the rain has temporarily stopped. I seem to spend more time pulling this out of my bag and putting it back in my bag. So I'm gonna just leave it on for now. But we are back out at Penrose Point State Park, just enjoying some of the trails. We're gonna head up to a picnic area and get to work on today's lunch. Recently I put out a video and asked for some viewer feedback on what should we make. We had two different options, lasagna or a shepherd's pie. I'm happy to say shepherd's pie won the vote. I'm not sure how I'd pull off lasagna. Maybe we'll do that in the future. But today we're gonna actually make a modified version of a shepherd's pie. It's actually going to be a cottage pie for you foodies out there. I'll let you look up the difference and you can tell me if you know what it is. So stay tuned. Got about another mile to go on this trail and we'll set up our camp and start cooking. If you've been following the channel, you probably recognize this campground. We're at Dash Point State Park. Proving to be one of my favorite and consistent places. Some fantastic day hikes here, afternoon walks, even bike rides if you've got your bike geared up and ready to go for the season. I'm finding I particularly like this location just because it has a little bit of everything, and it's a pretty short drive from where I work and where I live. So if you've just got a short time and you want to get outside and enjoy nature, great place to go. All right, so today, as I said earlier, we're actually going to be making a cottage pie instead of a shepherd's pie. If you haven't guessed already, the biggest difference is the meat product that you use. In a shepherd's pie, you have lamb or mutton. In a cottage pie, it's a beef base. And here, at least in Washington, it's pretty hard to find a lamb in a sealed container that doesn't have to be refrigerated. So I went for my old standby and I grabbed some shredded beef. We're going to use that as our alternative. Fingers are crossed, but I think it's going to taste great. Okay, so let's do a quick breakdown of what we have today. For our beef, it's an organic shredded beef with the broth. We're going to toss this in a pan and grill it up. Then we have some tomato paste and bone broth gravy that we're going to use to build the base to the stew. And of course some pre-diced vegetables, just because I didn't have a lot of time today. Carrots, frozen peas, and onions. For our potato, we have our 4-cheese mashed potato. This is going to take care of the cheese and the potato portion. And then, of course, a little bit of buttery spread to try and keep things from sticking in the pan. Oh, I know I'm not using the firebox today, but more of out of necessity than anything. I was afraid that I wouldn't have enough cooking time if I was using the natural fire in order to pull this off and still get a good quality product. So we're going to use the JetBoil and a combination of the JetBoil and my titanium pan. And then of course, we're going to bake everything in the lunchbox. And in my true fashion, no, I have not tried this recipe yet, so we'll see what happens. But as always, That's half the fun. Now this is a Wild Planet brand, organic shredded beef. I haven't tried this brand before, but I was pretty excited when I found it the other day in the supermarket. Because you don't normally find an organic beef that's in these pouches. And even if it's a little lean, we're going to add a lot of flavoring in with our other ingredients, so we should be good. Not going to lie, kind of looks like cat food. Let's hope we can make it taste better than cat food. One thing that I have a challenge with is only cooking for one person. Portions always seem to be just a little smaller than I should have, so I end up overcompensating and I make way too much food. So today, I'm just going to try and lean that back a little bit. Hopefully I don't end up making too small of a meal. Well, we'll find out. Okay, as this beef starts to warm up, and we don't really have to worry about it browning because it's already pre-cooked, but we are going to add a little bit more seasoning and fragrance to it. And the way we do that is by incorporating some of our bone broth gravy. Now, ordinarily you'd put in a lamb or a beef as a stock, but because we're already using a beef base, I didn't want it to get overpowered. So we're actually going to use a chicken base this time. It's going to add a little bit more of a subtle flavor to it without overpowering. And of course, a little bit of water to blend that in. And I could dump it everywhere too. Okay, then we're going to just incorporate that gravy and cook it down a little bit. Here's where it gets fun. The gravy is incorporated in the beef. We're going to put a little well right here in the middle. That's where we're going to add in our tomato paste. Remember, a little goes a long way. And all we do now is just slowly mix it in. We'll bring all those flavors together. Add in that nice creamy tomato base to it. Right, now that that tomato paste is fully incorporated, we're going to toss in our vegetables. Now, I highly recommend fresh vegetables, which these are fresh. I diced them up this morning before I left the house. But if you carry the whole vegetables with you, they're going to last a lot longer. I mean, let's be honest. This isn't exactly a meal that you would carry with you for a couple of days on the trail. There's just too much weight. But maybe for a first night meal, might be a great idea. Or if you're just out there for an afternoon hike, like I am today. No harm in getting outside and having a little bit of fun with your cooking. So we're going to mix up our veggies. Basically just bring them up to temperature, because once we put all of these into the pan to bake them up, they're going to cook nice and the flavors are going to blend in. So this is where things are going to get a little trickier. We're going to transfer the meat and vegetables into the baking dish, our lunchbox, and we're going to work on our mashed potatoes. Right, and simple as that. Next step, we're going to take our potatoes and spread them over the top of this stew base. Trying not to get messy. Now, we could try and make it look pretty. Right? If you're at home, you would ordinarily run your fork through it or something to kind of rough up the potatoes to help them get a little bit crispier when it bakes. Now our cheese is incorporated in the potato, so I'm not sure how brown we're going to get, but we'll give it a shot. Next step is to get this on the heat, and we'll start baking. But before we get too carried away and start baking this, there's one thing I still need to get done. And that's I need to make a cup of coffee. Because if I'm going to have to sit there and wait for something to bake, I think I'd like to have a cup of coffee to sip on in the process. And no, nothing fancy or gourmet today. Going good old instant again. Looks like that rain might be coming up here again pretty quick. See if we get lucky and wrap up lunch before it gets here. I don't know who's on dish duty today, but boy do I feel sorry for him. Somebody made a mess. It's another great thing about this park. About a half a mile down, there's a nice wash area and a wash room. So you can use the facilities and clean up your gear before you head back out on the trail. Just a nice little benefit to visiting a state park that's local to your community versus out there in the middle of nowhere. But I'm going to pack up, going to clean up a little bit while the coffee comes up to a boil, and then we'll get the rest of the food going. All right, that coffee is good. So we're going to switch and pull the coffee off, toss the shepherd's pie on. We're going to let everything just slowly bake down. This is going to take probably 10 to 15 minutes to get everything to fully incorporate flavor-wise. I don't anticipate the potatoes being able to brown unless I put a torch to the top of them. And other than aesthetically, I don't really see a need for that. I don't care what anybody says. I like my instant coffee. I do get a lot of grief from people, though, because I've got all my gourmet coffee roasters and brewing equipment and fresh ground coffee out on the trail, and my go-to always seems to be that instant. I guess I'm a little simpler of a guy than I like to admit to. That's exactly what you need on a cold day. So the fake shepherd's pie, cottage pie, is almost done. I just took a peek at it, and things are getting nice and bubbly, and the flavors are getting really, really effervescent. So at this point, we just need to give it a couple more minutes, then we'll pull it off and we'll see what it tastes like. That's the ultimate test. Doesn't matter how pretty it is. If it doesn't taste good, I don't want to eat it. All right, folks, we've talked about this so many different times. I'm not going to beat it to death. Pack it in, pack it out. That even goes for local parks. you don't need to make a mess. It's pretty easy just to carry an extra little bag with you to throw your garbage in if you create waste. If you don't create waste, that's awesome. You can also help pick up after other folks. If we all do our part, it's going to look a lot nicer in the end. And that's the end of my soapbox rant. Oh my goodness, that smells amazing. Ooh. It's hot. Let's maybe shut the heat off and let's see if we're good to go. Ooh. That smells absolutely fantastic. Now, ordinarily I should ladle this out and put it in a dish, but that would mean having to carry one more piece. Not sure how I'm going to eat it. There is so much. Look at that. Got nice creamy mashed potatoes. Got our pie base in there with the vegetables and the beef. Started to boil over a little bit, but oh my goodness, that smells amazing. Hey, the ultimate test, of course, is, does it taste as good as it smells? Mmm. That is so good. Oh man, that's amazing. And I've got 2 cups of mashed potatoes in here. About 6 ounces of shredded beef. A couple of ounces of vegetables. I don't think I'm going to be able to walk enough today to burn off what I'm putting into my system, but that's all right. It's another good reason to be close to home. That's fantastic. Well, folks, you asked for it. We made it happen. Let's write this one off as another successful afternoon on the trail. So until next time, folks, hope to see you out there on the trail. Let's go for a walk. Oh my goodness, that's great.